John 4:40. Cum venissent ergo ad illum Samaritani, rogaverunt eum ut ibi maneret, et mansit ibi 2 dies. When, therefore, the Samaritans had come to him, that is, to Jesus, they asked him that he might stay there, and he remained there for 2 days. There's a few interesting features going on here, again, as we draw to the close of the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. First of all, a couple subjunctives. Those are always going to prompt us to ask, why are these verbs in the subjunctive mood? What tense are they in of the subjunctive, and how does that help us interpret the meaning, and so forth. So we'll start right away by asking, why do we see when niscent here? Now, just to get us all on the same page, this is a third person plural, pluperfect, active, subjunctive. And why do we have it here? Why do we need the subjunctive mood at all? The reason is because of cum. Cum here is introducing a set of circumstances, which we might translate by the word when in English, under which another action is occurring. It's a kind of vaguer sort of expression than expressions which might begin with when, but are meant to indicate a very specific point in time, a chronological point, that is when something happens. At 3 o'clock, so-and-so came to see me, and we had lunch together. That's not what we're talking about here when cum is used in this more indefinite way to say, when this set of circumstances obtained, this other thing happened, generally we find a subjunctive verb afterwards. And in this case, we've got the pluperfect subjunctive because this is indicating time before the verb of the main clause, which here is rogaverunt. That's already in the perfect tense. That's saying, hey, from our standpoint, that is the standpoint of the readers, these all are past events. But even before those past events, there were events which occurred yet still further in the past. So that's what's going on here with venissent. Cum venissent, and our subject here is Samaritani, when the Samaritans, the inhabitants of Samaria, ergo, therefore, had come ad illum, to that person, here probably just to him, again, as so often with our demonstrative pronouns, as with other kinds of pronouns, they don't always carry the same force in every example in the Vulgate that they might in classical Latin. Here, when they had come to him, then here's again our main verb on which all of the syntax hangs. They asked him. They made a request of him. This is rogo rogare, rogavi rogatum. First conjugation verb here, nothing too difficult. We've seen it many times before. They asked him. It takes an object in the accusative. But when we want to go to indicate the actual content of the request, there's more than one way to do this. Sometimes if someone is just asking for an object, or they're asking for a person, or something simple like that, you can just have two accusatives. You can say, they asked him for this other thing. But when the idea of the request is not just a simple object or thing, but actually an action, then frequently we find this kind of clause, which is called a substantive clause in many Latin grammars. That is, it's a whole piece of a sentence, a whole clause, that together acts as the kind of object of the asking. For what did they ask him? They asked him that he would remain there. Now let's just take a quick look at this verb, maneret, third person singular, imperfect, active, subjunctive. The imperfect subjunctive in the sequence of tenses here, coming as it does after a historical tense, that is a main clause tense in the perfect, indicates action at the same time as, or sometimes subsequent to, the action of the main verb. So, they asked, those Samaritans did, they asked Jesus that he would remain with them at that same time of their asking, and indeed subsequent to it, after they had already come to him at that place where he had just been speaking to the woman at the well. And then for the rest of the sentence, it's fairly clear sailing. We just get a third-person singular perfect active indicative here, and it's a form, of course, of manere, again, to dwell or to linger or to stay on in a particular place. And that, in fact, is what he did. He fulfills their request. He remained there, ibi, again repeated. And the last thing we want to mention here is just this construction, duos dies. You might have expected a preposition or something else here, but in fact, in Latin, lots of time expressions are really easy to do compactly. And here you can simply use the accusative case to indicate extent of time. So in English, we would say, for 2 days. That is, for 2 days' time, etc. He remained there. Again, no preposition necessary, and we can use the accusative case by itself to indicate extensive time, just as we sometimes use it to express extent of space.